Israelites, they expected for this to take place. So your next fill in the blank is this. The numbering of Israel, the census that God commanded, it included only males 20 years old and upward. So your fill in the blank is 20 years. I think the draft in our country is 18, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it's 16, but here with the numbering of Israel, it was 20 years old and upward. This didn't include children. It didn't include women. It didn't include the Levites. Now, I'm going to give you some numbers here in just a moment to help us understand exactly how large Israel was at this time. But the Levites alone, who weren't counted within the census, there were over 22,000 of them. So that gives you a little bit of a beginning point to start at. So God promised the Israelites to give them, He promised to give them land, the land of Canaan. And He wanted them to understand all the way through, from the promise to the obtaining, that the entrance and obtaining the promised land, it would not be accomplished through peace settlements or peace agreements. It wouldn't be by the Canaanites seeing the Israelites saying, oh, here you go, you can have the land. We'll give you the deed to the land. God wanted the Israelites to know that the way they were going to get this land is through them fighting to obtain it. This was going to be obtained through war, through conquest. And those ones who were counted, these males 20 years old and upward, these were the soldiers. That's what is taking place here. It's a census designed to give to the Israelites an idea of how many soldiers they had for this conquest. So the ones that were counted, they were only true-born Israelites who were able to bear arms and go to war. So it was a census for soldiers. In fact, every male 20 years old and older, they were going to be a soldier. They were a soldier. Now, one would think that excluding the women and the Levites from their fighting force would deteriorate and weaken Israel's strength. Well, we could have the ladies bear arms, and it would increase the numbers. But it didn't deteriorate their fighting force. The women and the Levites, the children being excluded from bearing arms, they fulfilled roles which would serve as a tremendous bolstering strength to the nation of Israel. In our country, just because somebody's not fighting in the military or serving in the military doesn't mean they can't help our country out, whether it's in peacetime or in a time of war. The women would provide strength, which is unique to them. The Levites would make sure that everyone was worshiping the Lord accordingly. And so in this manner, all of Israel played a role, different kinds, different ways, and those 20 years old and older who were men would fight. And you think about this regarding us as Christians. Every Christian is enlisted in the Lord's army. Every one of us as Christians, we're in the Lord's army. We may not be all fighting in the exact same manner. We may be in different branches, doing different duties, but we're all serving the Lord and seeking to accomplish His will. Interestingly, today in Israel, every citizen, male and female, are required to serve in the military. That doesn't happen in America, but in Israel, men are typically required to serve anywhere from 2 to 3 years, and usually ladies will serve 2 years. I can remember when we took a trip to Israel, we went through there, we went into Jordan and had to go through some checkpoints, and there were young people, men and women, who were at the checkpoints, who were military forces, and I thought it was interesting and began speaking to them and found out this very thing. Here in the book of Numbers, they were to take the sum of the males, 20 years old and upward, after their families, by the house of their fathers with the number of their names. We read that in verse number 2. It says, take ye the sum of the congregation of the children of Israel, after their families, by the house of their fathers, with the number of their names, every male by their polls. So let me give you the next fill in the blank. That is organization. Taking the sum of the congregation and served as a means of organization. And when you're done filling that blank in, I want you to underline conquest. In preparation. So it organized the people, it prepared them for immediate conquest. This was to be done so that they could immediately fight. It would determine where the Israelites also were to camp, what order they were to march and journey. This was not for wilderness wanderings, this number. It was for immediate conquest. God said, all right, number, we're about to go take the land. Now, as we're going to learn in next week's lesson, that didn't take place because of unbelief. But the Lord didn't command them to take the census so they know how much water and food they needed in the wilderness. No, that wasn't it. It was, how many fighting people do we have? How many can we put within the military? They did arrive at a number. They were to take a sum, and they arrived at a sum. Once you take your Bible, stay in chapter 1, but go down to verse number 46. We're going to find the sum of the males 20 years old and upward. Notice verse 46 of chapter 1. Even all they that were numbered were 600,000 and 3,550, but the Levites after the tribe of their fathers were not numbered among them. So the fill in the blank here is a number. The sum of the Israelite men who could bear arms was 603,550. 603,550. That's their fighting force at this time. That was the Israelites' fighting force. To help us to get a grip on this number, there are currently in our country's military 2.86 million personnel. Now, that's not all who can bear arms or who would bear arms, but there are, within that number, the 2.86 million, there are 1.3 million active troops, what we would consider soldiers. 1.3 million. So there's 603,550 that were found to be able to bear arms within Israel, and it's thought, based on that number, that the Israelites at this time were somewhere around 2 million people. 2 million people under ordinary circumstances, it would have seemed to be unmanageable. And so what the Lord does here with Israel is absolutely necessary for them to take this step in getting organized, to know how many soldiers they have, to understand how they were to march, what order they were to camp at, all these details so that it wasn't just a huge mess going into the land of Canaan. But this numbering also served as a genealogical record. Okay, let's move on to our next point. This point is the families. Within chapter 1, between verses 4 and verse 46, where we just read, we have different divisions of this census. We're given the 12 tribes with the name of each man who served as the head of each tribe. So I'm going to read verses 4, not down through 46, but verses 4 down through verse 16. And we'll get these tribes along with the head of each tribe. Okay, verse 4. We didn't read verse 3, did we? So let's read verse 3. From 20 years old and upward, all that were able to go forth to war in Israel, thou and Aaron shall number them by their armies. Okay, now verse 4. And with you there shall be a man of every tribe, every one head of the house of his fathers. These are the names of the men that shall stand with you. Of the tribe of Reuben, Elizur, the son of Shadur. Of Simeon, Shelumiel, the son of Zurishaddai. Verse 7. Of Judah, Nahshon, the son of Amminadab. Of Issachar, Nathaniel, the son of Zoar. Of Zebulun, Eliab, the son of Helon. Of the children of Joseph, of Ephraim, Elishama, the son of Ammihud. Of Manasseh, Gamaliel, the son of Pedazur. Of Benjamin, Abidan, the son of Gideoni. Verse 12, of Dan, Ahiezer, the son of Ammishaddai. Of Asher, Pagiel, the son of Achran. Of Gad, Eliasaph, the son of Duel. Of Naphtali, Ahira, the son of Enan. These were the renowned of the congregation, princes of the tribes of their fathers, heads of thousands in Israel. I hope you enjoyed me reading those verses to you, trying to say other things. Okay, so here's the 12 tribes on your lesson sheet. And then after the hyphen mark, we have the head of that tribe. And then below that, if we were to read down through verse 46, we would see that each of these tribes were numbered. So let's just briefly go through them. We have the tribe of Reuben, and within them were 46,500 fighting men. Then below that, tribe of Judah, 74,600. Tribe of Simeon, 59,300. Tribe of Issachar, 54,400. Flip it back. We have the tribe of Zebulun, 57,400. Just below that, the tribe of Manasseh, 32,200. Tribe of Dan, 62,700. Tribe of Gad, 45,650. Then on the right side, tribe of Ephraim, 40,500. Tribe of Benjamin, 35,400. Tribe of Asher, 41,500. Tribe of Naphtali, 53,400. Pastor put the numbers in there right. It should add up to 603,550. So that's the tribes. And just looking at those 12 tribes and the numbers, you see the essential, importance of being organized as a nation that are in the wilderness about to conquer the land of promise. Okay, let's move to our next point, and that is the organization. We've learned that God wanted them to take the sum of fighting men for their immediate conquest of Canaan. We've learned the head of each tribe, their respective number of men within the census. So now let's continue in the book of Numbers. Go down to verse number 52. 52 of chapter 1. We'll read that at the end of the chapter. Chapter 1, verse 52. And the children of Israel shall pitch their tents, every man by his own camp, and every man by his own standard throughout their hosts. But the Levites shall pitch round about the tabernacle of testimony, that there be no wrath upon the congregation of the children of Israel. And the Levites shall keep the charge of the tabernacle of testimony. And the children of Israel did according to all that the Lord commanded Moses, so did they. The next fill in the blank is this: God is a God of order. He is a God of order. In these years of being a pastor, I've heard people say to me on a few occasions, well, I don't believe in organized religion. I always find that quite humorous, because everything around a person, including themselves, their physical nature, is amazingly organized. I mean, just the physical body alone, if we take one component of our body, say the eye, it is infinitely beyond the human comprehension, organized in such a way we don't even understand how everything can possibly work. But God is a God of order. What he does, whether it's in creation, his salvation, the fulfillment of his promises to Israel or the local church, everything God does is done with perfect order. And that's what we find here as he's numbering Israel, his covenanted people. Within this passage, we find three principal divisions among the Israelites. We have these tribes and the head of each tribe, but what we have as far as their camping is concerned, we also have organization within the encampment of Israel. First, we have the tabernacle. Secondly, surrounding the tabernacle were the Levites, as we read there in verse 53, that no wrath be upon the congregation of Israel. And then thirdly, there were the tribes surrounding the Levites, and each tribe was in a specific place. So you have a statement there, the three principal divisions among the Israelites were the tabernacle, the Levites, and the tribes. I want you to look at the bottom. I should have had this up with there, that statement, but notice on the bottom, that little illustration that I placed there for you. In the middle, you have the tabernacle. You can see the smoke from the sacrifice rising. And then around the tabernacle, you have divisions of Levites, sons of Aaron, Kohathites, Gershonites, Merarites. And then the third division, outside of the Levites, you have Dan starting at the top, going clockwise, Naphtali, Issachar, Judah, Zebulun, Simeon, Reuben, Gad, Manasseh, over at, on the left side, Ephraim, Benjamin, and then Asher. So the tabernacle, which was in the middle, that was the place God chose to dwell among the Israelites. That was the central part of the camp. Any time that the cloud would be removed, they would pick up the tabernacle, they would move, they would set up camp this way every single time that they would go between here and the land of Canaan. The designations for the Levites and the tribes are given in chapters 2 through 9 of the book of Numbers. Within that, we also find the Lord giving to Moses regarding who would pack up, who would set up, and who would move the tabernacle pieces. Okay, let's move to our last point, which is journeying out of the wilderness. This is our final bit of organizational detail we're going to look at today. And this has to do with Israel's marching organization. So we have them being numbered, we find the different divisions and tribes ahead of each tribe, we find how they were to camp. Now we're going to look at how they were to march. So go to Numbers chapter 10. So chapter number 10. We're going to look at verses 11, 12, and 13 here. Numbers chapter number 10. And let's look at verse 11. And it came to pass on the second month, in the second year, that the cloud was taken up from off the tabernacle of the testimony. Now remember, this was an indication for them to move. This was God saying, all right, it's time to move. The children of Israel took their journeys out of the wilderness of Sinai, and the cloud rested in the wilderness of Paran. And they took their first journey according to the commandment of the Lord by the hand of Moses. Now let's look at verse 14. In the first place went the standard of the camp of the children of Judah, according to their armies, and over his host was Nashon the son of Amminadab. So the Israelites, they've been given the law, they've been given instructions for worship and living, they've been given organizational details needed to conquer Canaan as far as their military strength. They begin their journey out of the wilderness of Sinai. So the fill in the blank is the cloud. The cloud was taken up off the tabernacle on the second month of the second year. So it was right on the heels of Moses receiving these instructions that they left. It wasn't as if Moses got these instructions and then waited for 2 years to do something about it. The Lord gave the order of Israelites the encampment. Now he gives them the tribal marching order, we could say. The next statement, let's see here if I have this. I don't have the statement on there, but the first section to lead the way was the Ark of the Covenant, Moses and Aaron. Go down to verse 33. Chapter 10, verse 33. And they departed from the mount of the Lord 3 days' journey, and the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord went before them in the 3 days' journey for to search out a resting place for them. And the cloud of the Lord was upon them by day when they went out of the camp. So we have the ark leading the way. The second section, which was after the ark, included Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. The third section included Gershon, Merari, and the Levites that bore the tabernacle. The fourth one was Reuben, Simeon, and Gad. The fifth one, the Kohathites. The sixth one, Ephraim, Manasseh, Benjamin. The seventh, Dan, Asher, and Naphtali. Now you have to memorize all those things I just said because there's no quiz. Okay. You don't have to memorize it, but that gives that information to you. Anyways, now, all the people that were numbered, the men that were numbered, these were true-born Israelites. However, among the Israelites were people who were not Israelites. these folks that were with the Israelites from the time they left Egypt to the time they entered the land of Canaan, this was called the mixed multitude. This is the group called the mixed multitude. The statement here is alongside of the Israelites in their journey from Egypt to Canaan were non-Israelites. I've put down a verse here that references them in Exodus chapter number 12. It's verse 38. A mixed multitude, and these are the non-Israelites, went up also with them. Now that's back in Exodus chapter 12, when they departed out of Egypt. Flocks and herds, even very much cattle. So this mixed multitude among them most likely were Egyptians, and probably foreigners from various countries that either were in Egypt or had joined them from bordering nations. The organized Israelites began their first journey after arriving at Mount Sinai. So much happened in just their short time from Egypt to Sinai, but so much is yet to come. So in next week's lesson, we're going to continue alongside of the Israelites as they journey steadily towards the promised land. Okay, that'll conclude our lesson for our class today. We're going to go ahead and, if you could discontinue the line, we're going to go ahead and have our prayer time.